So, would you like to discuss Rebels or Invincible first?
Oh, I think we'll start with Invincible,
Okay, cool.
as we did the
floor
character
is yours.
profile, and then we'll go into Rebels, and then we can go straight into Ahsoka.
Sounds good.
So yeah, Invincibles was trash. No, I'm joking.
Bullshit. I refuse to believe that you thought it was trash.
I binged it all in an afternoon, evening.
Is that because you left yourself not enough time, or is that because you started it and then just didn't want to stop it?
I actually had enough because I was watching it on Tuesday while I was between doing work and rearranging my room. So it's like I looked because I thought, I'm gonna have to start thinking about watching this because obviously you'd messaged me to say you finished Rebels, and I couldn't remember how many episodes were. So I went on. I was like, it's only like 8 episodes. That's fine. I can do that. And I was like thinking I'd do it over a couple of days. Well, it was like, nope, next episode. I loved it. It was
It's
so
so
good.
good. It is absolute peak animation.
Yeah, the animation's great. I love the style. The story is actually really fucking good.
It's fucking tight in it.
And I think because this might be like, I know you said a lot of people after The Boys and Invincible are a bit tired now of the evil Superman trope.
Yeah, there is a lot more to Omni Man than evil Superman. I don't know all of it because obviously I've not read ahead, but he has, by the sounds of it, one of the best arcs in fiction over the course of it all.
Okay.
That people are really excited to come alive. It's just when it came out and no one knew anything more, they're like, another evil Superman?
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I haven't watched The Boys. I haven't, like, I know of, like, the evil Superman comic and, like, things where he's gone evil and stuff. Yeah. It's like, to me, this was, like, fresh. I knew what was coming, but it was, like, still, like, a fresh experience for the most part. And do you know what's funny? Like, partway through, I knew that there's, like, I think I've seen, like, a still or some clip of, like, the fight scene, like, near the end. So I knew that, or like it might have been him kill, and I knew, okay, like there's gonna be the reveal of like why he fucking killed them.
Yeah.
And partway in, like I think it was like second or third episode, I'm like, his homeworld's gonna be a whole lie. It's not gonna, and I was like, it's all gonna be a lie, and he's not. It's like, it's just him, and like he killed everyone on his homeworld or something. Obviously, it wasn't quite to that extent, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
The fucking fight, like kicking it off with him just destroying Earth's heroes, I was just like, oh, okay.
So of fans of the comic, based on my recollection of the time, the knee-jerk reaction wasn't actually overly fond of that.
Because it was meant to be
like,
later.
in the comics, that was a bit of a slow burn.
Right.
So you, once the big reveal actually happened, you got to go back and look at the last 50 issues and see all of the foreshadowing that no one had picked up on.
Yeah.
But because they're like, we've only got 10 episodes and we've got to sell this so that it gets another season.
Yeah.
We're going to change the order of things around a little bit.
I think it worked though, because it's like they hit you with that as the viewer. And obviously, like, it ends on that, and you're like, I'm not going to get to know why he's done this for ages now. Yeah. And I know,
they make the slow burn his reasoning.
Yes, and you're like trying to figure out, okay, why though? Like, why now did he do this?
Yeah.
And then piecing it together, like, okay, this obviously was the plan all along, or like there's something about where it came from isn't true, and figuring it out. Meanwhile, his son's figuring out his powers, which then makes him act even more weird. Yeah. And I really enjoyed like the dynamic of him slowly getting like people getting closer to finding out what he'd done, while also his son's Mark's trying to like figure out how to be a superhero. Plus, the world's now in chaos, so you've got other heroes trying to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah,
it was a good build-up. Yeah.
The slipping of his mask that he's managed to hold up for 18 years as this perfect guy that everyone trusts. Like, even like the CIA style guy who's like paranoid about everyone trusts him.
Yeah.
And then now that Mark's got his powers and like this thing he thought he had loads of time for, because he hates Earth, but his life is easy, so he's comfortable, and now it's slipping, and it's like it's that slip into I don't know what's going on. He feels like he's losing control, so you start to see him snap at his wife, which he's never done before. Be really aggressive, and it shows like how well he'd kept that mask up when you know that he's from this race of murderous monsters.
Yeah.
That his wife, who is just a normal human, has no problem telling him to shut the fuck up and calm down. That clearly she's not scared of him.
Yeah.
To then know what he's capable of. It just shows how well he's kept that mask up. So to see that crumble, you are just there going, what has happened for this to all be the way it's
Yeah,
been?
like why is this happening now?
Yeah.
And I think it was like probably the way I took it is like the combination of like his son getting his powers. He's like, oh shit, I need to get him on my side before they come, and then it's like a situation of like he hasn't been able to explain to his son, and then he's against his son.
So I believe the rationale was the Viltrumites go out to a planet.
Yeah.
They operate there as a hero to get power and influence, and then crumble the world.
Yeah, essentially be like, work for us or die.
Exactly. And they're so powerful they only send one person to each planet.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was when Omni-Man arrived, he wasn't the only superpowered being.
Yeah.
Which is why he had a son. So that
there'd be two of them.
There'd be two of them.
Got you.
The problem is, based on my inference, because I have only seen like the first season and I've not read further than that. My inference is he's grown accustomed to Earth, and although he'll sit there and he'll pretend that he doesn't care about Deborah and that she's like a dog to him, that's like it's like a nature versus nurture. He was grown up to be this killing machine who doesn't care for anything, but actually he's starting to realize, oh, I do actually care a little bit. Earth isn't that bad. It's nice being loved instead of hated.
Well, yeah, it's that like, yes, he went there as what we see as a grown man. Like he'd been through a lot and he went there like, and then it's like, I do think you're right. It's kind of that thing of he has so much like what he knew, and he's lived this like life which started off as a pretend, having a wife and a kid, and it was like all for the cause, and he was hiding that, but it was all pretend. It's like that realization at the end of it where he's like, he was trying to be like, no, there's none of this matters, but actually it has seeped in there and it does matter to him. And I think that like having a son changed that as well for him.
I guess it's like the old like cliche of if you pretend to be something long enough, you become it. If you pretend to be a family man who loves and cares about everyone on Earth and wants to protect them for long enough, eventually some of that's going to seep in a little bit.
And you can't fully ignore it.
But we have to talk about the best bit. That final fight scene, the brutality of the subway scene, where he's just going through and massacring these people while Mark just watches.
Like, so that it's like, let's just go through. Let's go through the season, because I watched, obviously binged it all in one. It's like, episode 1, he absolutely just brutally destroys Earth's heroes, and I was like, oh, okay, I knew the show was brutal and gory, and like I expected it, but I was like, okay, I know the tone now.
Yeah.
Then we kind of don't really get too much of that till it's the fucking alien guys that keep reoccurring, and then he goes through the portal, and you just see him absolutely fucking destroy a planet, and you're like, oh shit, this is what he could do to Earth if he wanted to. I now understand how fucking powerful he is.
Yeah.
And then he comes back like, no, yeah, it was Tuesday afternoon. And you're like, okay. He is like, not, when we're thinking, oh shit, he put a lot of punch into his son there, like that was too much, actually still was pulling his punches at that point.
Yeah.
And then, that final fight between him and his son, like the subway one was just brutal.
It's just when he takes essentially the gloves off and he shows the disregard for human life.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. Who cares if we take a building down with 10,000 people in it? Their lives mean nothing to me. And like, that's his whole point throughout that entire argument. It's that all these people are going to be dead before you even realize it. We live for so long.
Yep.
Their lives don't matter. We're better than them.
Yep.
and like him just exercising like exactly what he's trying to paint as
Yeah, he's
the
saying,
truth.
he's telling Mark that, and is also essentially showing him that by just like, this is just like, this building is no different than just a pile of rocks as a mountain. Like, I don't care if I smash through it. And it's like, he's making Mark, like, Mark is helpless in it, and he's essentially just like, he throws him through a bit, like in the subway thing, like he's holding him there so he can see that he has the front and he has no way he can stop it. And it's like, no, accept, like, look what we can do. These people that, but they're thinking that that's going to go through to him, not realizing that, like, the age-old thing of like, he ain't full Viltrumite, he's half human. You misunderstood that he would have human like, he grew up on Earth. No shit, he gives a shit about Earth. Like, he don't know, like, thinking that he would be loyal. It's that, excuse, like, this is gonna sound funny, but it's the boomer mentality of, oh, you must be loyal to our home and to our country. And it's like, no, I don't give a shit.
Russia.
Yeah, I don't give a
USA
shit
number
about
one
where we
type
came,
bullshit,
where you came from. It's not the world I live in.
You never even taken me to see Grandpappy.
Exactly. I wasn't expecting Mr. Immortal to reappear at the end. Like, I'd completely forgot that they like collected his body and stuff.
Yeah.
And then him showing up,
he's alive.
I was like, oh shit. Now it's really like, the gig is up for his dad.
It's masterful television. It is, you can't miss it. They did a really good job where they cut the episode, so obviously you always wanted to start the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the story itself is just, you can't put it down. It's so engaging. You want to know the next bit. You've got so many interesting characters that, for superheroes, which are a lot of the time, it feels like there's 12 other superheroes who are identical.
Yeah.
They still give them their own individual
Oh yeah, they all felt
essence.
Yeah. I liked as well, like, all the little side stories that happened. Like,
the B stories are very strong.
Like, the A story is obviously like, we're waiting for this reveal of his dad to like for him to get caught and found out, and have to explain why and everything. That's the slow burn. Meanwhile, you've got Mark figuring out his powers, which also gives him like a bunch of side villains to fight and different things. And also then you get like, Robot is actually some weird like thing in a tube, and he builds himself a body. Like, he uses villains to make himself a clone, which I was like, that whole time I was like, what the fuck is he up to? Like, why has he broke these guys out? And then it all like, oh shit, he just wants a body. Like, all those things going on at the same time. Obviously, the whole stuff with Atom Eve and how she like Rex, whatever.
Yeah, cheated on her with duplicate,
yeah, and then
that
like,
whole situation.
and then
she doesn't live with her family.
Which we also need to get onto. I have watched the Atom Eve special as well.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. The obviously it'll be more noticeable for you, but I felt like while I was watching it, the jump in visuals from clearly them being told you guys are gonna have a bit more control to be creative here. It seems like a huge jump. It, like, to me, based on my memory of the season 1, it seemed like it was a lot higher production.
Oh yeah, like, it felt cleaner and the animation was done better. I think as well, because I'd gone straight into it, like, it was so fresh of obviously meeting this Atom Eve character, to then get to know her origin and like where she came from and all this. Also, her dad's a fucking dick.
Such a bellend.
Like, in this series, I was like, oh, that dad's classic dickhead dad, doesn't want like, wants to control their kid. Okay, no, makes sense why she would eventually like just run away. No, he's a dick. Like, real.
After the special came out, there was a lot of people tweeting somehow Nolan isn't the worst dad in the Invincible universe.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I hate this guy more than Nolan.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed though, like, her little, getting to see that little origin and seeing what got her to the point in Invincible.
It puts her character into a lot more context. When you find out not long after discovering she had these powers, she had to find out about this entire other life that was ripped away from her as soon as she found out about it.
Yeah.
And also finding out that all bar a little bit of a mental block, she is God.
Yeah. That also, for me, I was like, oh, wait, shit, yeah, she can...
She
like,
is absolutely as close as you're going to get to God.
Obviously, like, I kind of did and didn't understand her powers fully in the show, because they don't really explain it, but, like, visually, like, okay, I get the idea. She can manipulate stuff and, like, make things out of nothing. Then when it's, like, explained, like, she can, like, manipulate atoms fully, I even thought in the show, I was like, oh, if she wanted to, she could just turn a human into something else, and then, like, nah, there's a block there, she can't allow it. I'm like, makes sense. Otherwise, that would be a bit OP. And then it ends with her essentially breaking past that block, and you're like, oh, ooh, she's strong.
She's
and
very, very powerful.
Present day, she's just making vineyards and water and making people happy and building tree houses.
Yeah. And she's just slowly like pushing out what she can do. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I knew you'd love it. I've been telling you since the first time I said you should watch this at some point. Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to love it. It doesn't miss. It's what so else? Good.
Oh, Adam the alien, who's voiced Alan, not Adam. I was like, when they were like, there's someone flying over it, like Earth again, and then Mark goes to deal with him, I was thinking, this is like it's like some big villain that Omni-Man's fought before. And then it turns out it's like there's he's just a audit guy.
Yeah, he just comes to make sure that your planetary defense is all in order. Ironically, in case the Viltrumite Empire comes for you.
Yeah, and then it's like him reappearing at the end and getting told that the whole like, you take a seat this time. Let me explain what the fuck's been going on.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for season 2.
Another brilliant Seth Rogen cameo.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that is a part of the comics as well. He instead of it being because Nolan is like just out of hospital or whatever, it's Nolan's away dealing with something. So they send Mark up to deal with it.
Right.
And they fight, and Alan realizes he's come to the wrong planet. He's supposed to be going to Urath, not Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the big battle, he comes back and he goes, "Oh shit, there's a Viltrumite here." Our intel says you guys need to be careful. And then he has to explain, "Oh yeah, that's my dad. He's gone. We don't know where he's gone. I'm half Viltrumite, but I'm chill."
Yeah.
All I will say, bearing in mind you obviously haven't nerded out on it as me as yet, i.e. reading ahead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All I know that you'll want to know is at some point his suit changes to a blue and black theme instead of a blue and yellow theme.
Ooh.
Apparently he is a fucking menace in that suit.
Oh. Okay.
Like it's like I have no actual knowledge of it, but it's compared to like Spider-Man in the symbiote suit, kind of.
Oh.
Don't fuck with Mark in that suit.
Okay.
It's like I've seen it used in like like Twitter, so you do like 4 photos.
Yeah.
The thing that it's like, don't fuck with these versions of comic book characters.
Right.
And it's like that version of Spider-Man in the symbiote suit, that version of him and stuff like that.
Got
So that'll be interesting to see if we get that this season at all, or if that's like how this season ends. But
I'm very much looking forward now to season 2.
I cannot wait. It's been so long as well, because it's been like 2 years, maybe even 3 years.
For me, like what seems to keep happening, I get to go straight into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I've got to do with Rebels and Ahsoka.
True. You've literally walked straight into Ahsoka.
If I would have finished Rebels like 5 years ago, like the rest of you fuckers, and had to wait this long to get any kind of explanation, I would have been climbing the walls.
To be fair, for me, it was like Rebels was, I want to say like a couple years ago. For me,
so it started in 2014. There was 4 seasons, so I assume it finished in 2018.
Yeah, see, it was already all out because I'd been working my way. It's probably a couple of years ago now, because I was working through all of Clone Wars because I hadn't seen it all, and I went straight from Clone Wars into Rebels.
Right, yeah.
and then obviously Bad Batch has been coming out and stuff.
Um,
So I saw your messages towards you finishing Rebels of getting
that
more and more
fourth
confused.
season really just the first 3 seasons are just fun space adventures causing trouble for the Empire, and then that last season just melts your mind at every opportunity.
It's the best Star Wars story.
It's
everything.
Chaos.
It's everything Star Wars needs.
I hope we get to see a Loth Wolf in Ahsoka at some point.
So we'll get into some of that in when we're talking about Ahsoka. I have theories that we will see some again.
But I loved the first 3 seasons of Rebels. I loved the fun, let's go here, do this mission, cause a bit of chaos. You know me, that's right up my alley. Fuck the system, let's just try and find ways to mess with it.
As we're trying to train.
That last season, just pure, unadulterated chaos of, we said we were going to help Lothal, we're going to do it. Shit, we're trapped on Lothal. How are we going to do this? Thrawn is here. We're trapped here. We have no resources. It's like you've been building up all this time to them having more and more available, and then it gets to, okay, we're going to free Ezra's homeworld now, and then they're back down to, ironically, less than they had at the start, and they're back where they started, but everything's completely different. It's such a full circle.
And in a way, very classic Star Wars in the sense of like, although everything, like for the Rebels, no matter how many times it feels like things are getting better and going well, it then all goes wrong and they're back with nothing, and they're back being scrappy rebels dealing with the big bad.
Put it this way, I obviously knew Kanan didn't make it out. Because I'm not a dumb fuck.
I was trying so hard not to just like I try and divert you so you weren't 100%.
I didn't actually realise at the time, but I'd seen the still of the bit where he dies.
With him holding the fire.
Yeah, with him like that. Because obviously that's the only time he has that haircut. And I'd seen that before I started watching Rebels.
So
and then it started, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I'd forgotten. And then I see he's cut his hair, and I'm like, oh, shit.
That whole... Because that all happened in like one episode.
Yeah.
Here is kind of like... ascension, I want to call it, of him like finally accepting the Force again in a way. Of like him cutting his hair and going through, you watching him go through all that, and then like the ending to where he's holding back the fire. And I saw your messages like, what the fuck happened with his vision? And it being like, that was him. Like the Force, the way I took it in the moment was like fully connected to the Force and fully like his full potential. He could have used the Force to bring back his eyesight. Like someone powerful enough can do that, and in that final moment, like the Force gave him the ability to have that.
That's what Vader was doing in his tank we see him in the original trilogy, isn't it? That entire time, over the entire course of the Empire, he would go into that essential back to tank and like meditate to try and heal his injury so that he could come out of the suit one day.
The only reason Vader can actually function is because Anakin's so powerful. He actually spends the 100% of the time he is spending some force on removing his pain.
Yeah.
So he can actually, like, the Force is in, like, can do some nut stuff, and like Kanan getting his vision back is that like perfect final moment for him.
Yeah.
It was really hard in Mandalorian when Grogu does the fire thing, and we were talking about it, and I was like, this is like the second time this has happened, but I can't explain why. Because you hadn't seen it then. And I was just like, Kanan and Grogu, like, I think are the only two people, there might be one other instance of it, but like are the only two people.
Ezra did it.
Ezra as well, then they're free.
Before him and Thrawn shoot off in hyperspace, right at the very end, he's doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
Because you get the same shot from the same angle.
Yes, you do.
Of and I was like, oh shit.
So those
also that level of cinematography for like the final season of Rebels for an animated show is outrageous from Dave Filoni.
Oh, he he went next level on this whole final season. But yeah, so those three people are the only time that's happened. But such a sad moment though of Kanan going, you now understand like the whole where the fuck Ezra and Thrawn went.
Yeah. So Thrawn's back. We know Thrawn is back.
Or coming back.
Is Ezra back?
So
if they were both there together, if they got through, does that mean Thrawn's killed Ezra for Thrawn to get away? I'm confusion.
So this
I assumed based on the bits of the Ahsoka trailer and having not seen all of Rebels, my assumption in my head was Kanan dies somehow.
Yep.
And I assumed that was going to be near the end of the show.
Yep.
Or I assumed that was going to be the end of the season. Then I assumed Ahsoka was going to take over Ezra's training. And then I assumed Ezra was going to have a fracture with Ahsoka and he was going to scuttle off to meditate. And just like be like proper Jedi, just zen as fuck in a cave somewhere.
If only.
Then Ahsoka dies and doesn't die, and that doesn't get paid off for another 2 seasons, and we still don't know what the fuck she was doing in between.
Well,
and Sabine's being trained as a Jedi by the end, but is she Force sensitive?
So, okay, so the Ahsoka thing, when you say she died, are you on about her fight with Vader?
Yeah, so she died. She was assumed dead by everyone. Obviously, we saw her limp off. But I'm like, so why she faked her death? Obviously, I now know he went to the place in between places and he pulled her out before the explosion. Doesn't explain how Vader survived like the fucking psycho. And then he's put her back in and then she's limped out. And
So that her limping away, people are presuming that's when she kind of she went on a journey and kind of re-established her connection with the Force again. Because when she appears at the end of Rebels, she's in like white robes.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, she spent that time reconnecting with the Force and like, because she'd finally kind of closed on or come to terms with what had happened with Anakin.
Oh yeah.
That chapter finally closed, so she needed time off doing her thing. The world between. We'll get into it in Ahsoka, but I don't think that's something that is not done with.
Yeah,
in terms of like, even though they destroyed the temple, and Dave Filoni said they destroyed the temple on purpose because he didn't want it to be a recurring thing that gets used.
Yeah, but I mean, there's clearly multiple ways to get to it, like.
Because it essentially is time travel, even though they don't want to call it time travel. It makes for some very interesting
windows in the Force.
Yes.
But I also love the recurring theme of like all Jedis have their thing. Ezra's thing being his affinity with animals.
Yeah.
I love so much.
Yeah.
It makes, although Jedis aren't wizards, and like I would never call them wizards, it gives him more of like a wizardy vibe with this whole like understanding the Purgils and protecting them. When Hera's like, no, fuck them things, he's like, just be nice to them and they'll be chill. And like the loaf wolves and the loaf cats, and obviously it comes full circle.
Bit like Grogu is. He's very animal sensitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Ezra being like, the whole thing with the Purgils and like him connecting to them was so fucking sick the first time when he like makes that Force connection.
The internet was in meltdown when Grogu saw the Purgils when they're in hyperspace.
Because that's the first time we were like, holy shit, they're doing it. They're the things. Because we've sat here being like, they fucking left with Ezra. Like, they all blipped away and we don't know where the fuck he went at what point in time or space.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I think Ezra is alive, like you asked, but they're at a different point in time, not
Do
just
you
somewhere.
Think there is a chance that he has been sent back in time to be an old ancient of the Jedi, or he's been pushed into the future and we might see him return with Rey's new Jedi Order, but he'll be as we left him and he's just been forced through time a little bit.
I think we'll get him back sooner than the Ray stuff. I think I don't know if it was forward or back. My guess was kind of always presumed forward, I think. It's
So I don't know why I
unknown.
like the idea of Ezra getting sent back in time and being an early Jedi, and the
I get
entire
you.
Jedi Order being built from him, and it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The thing
He
is, it's
got
like
taught the ways of the Jedi, and then he's gone back and he started it all off again.
that causes some issues because then you're like, why would he not
Of
mention
course
that
it
Order
does.
66?
Everything does, though.
But also the thing with Sabine, is she force sensitive? We don't know. The presumption is she has some connection with the Force.
I feel like Ahsoka, was kind of leaking in a little bit to Ahsoka here. But I feel like Ahsoka wouldn't have taken her on as a Padawan if she had no connection to the Force. Because at that point, she's just teaching a Mandalorian how to use a lightsaber. And teaching a Mandalorian to fight is like teaching a duck to swim. It's a waste of time. They already know how to do it.
Okay, so the assumption is she first took her on to teach her because she had the darksaber. So she was like, and she'd played with, like, she'd used it, and it's kind of this thing of like, there is a good use, like we've seen with Mando. Mandalorians can fight, but then don't necessarily know how to use the darksaber. And it's like the darksaber being in play at that time. There is good reason for Ahsoka to like to train her, even if she doesn't necessarily have a connection to Force. Maybe there is something little there that Ahsoka knows. Also, it's just like good that would be a Mandalorian that can wield a lightsaber well. Would probably Ahsoka's probably thinking like if she ends up with the darksaber. I think trying not to leak too much into the show. I think there might be something there, but obviously it's such a. We're learning now. Obviously, Ahsoka became more of a grey Jedi. It's just like I imagine that
Grey
caused
Jedis don't exist in canon. Don't say that. Jesus Christ, you're gonna get us lynched.
I don't give a shit. They're like whether they do or don't. Dave Filoni is making them real.
She is not a Jedi Order Jedi, but she follows the way of the Jedi as best she can.
She is as much the. I mean, it goes to like the father, son, and daughter beings.
Yeah.
Where there is balance.
Do you reckon we get them in live action?
I don't think they necessarily come back. I think
that was when I finally watched Clone Wars. That was one of them arcs that I thought was really cool, even though it was really weird. So I was like, oh, I really like that mystical stuff. That was fucking awesome. And I was like, cool, that's that done with. That was all kind of in Anakin's head, and that was his internal fight, and that was how Dave Filoni decided to show us his internal fight.
No, I think they are like
and
that.
And then it gets to the temple when I'm already losing my mind because Kanan's dead, shit's going on, and then I see it, I'm like, the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, and I think that plus the Loth Wolves, like, there's obviously a lot more mysticism now being like played into the Star Wars stuff, and they're leaning into it, which I'm loving. I'm trying to think what else with Rebels. Trying not to leak into Ahsoka here. That's like important or to talk about.
I know. Well, one thing we need to talk about in Rebels.
Chopper.
Chopper.
Do you now understand why we call him a war criminal?
He is so good. I love him so much. One of my favorite episodes of all of Rebels was the episode where they save the Imperial droid, and then to become like R2D2 and C3PO if they're a bit more physically aggressive.
Yeah.
Like R2 and C3PO have like a passive aggressiveness to each other.
Yeah.
Chopper and A2 or whatever he was. They're like more physically aggressive with each other.
Yeah, Chopper was jealous.
Hilarious.
Chopper's like, no, I'm the only droid here.
Yeah. It's really funny though, because like I don't know if like this is just commonly accepted, but obviously Chopper is Hera's droid. It seems like he hates everyone, he seems like the bad dog that growls and bares its teeth at everyone, but then its owner comes through the door and its ears drop and its tail's wagging. And it's like, hello. And it's like Hera is the only person Chopper cares about. Everyone else he'll put up with.
Yeah, no, Chopper is like linked with her. It's like exactly like that. He doesn't give a shit whether you're rebel, imperial, whatever. Like, he's like, if you're not in the Ghost crew, you're evil. I hate you.
Yeah, 100%.
The fact as well that the thing that makes Chopper so much better and more animated is like, one, it's voiced by Dave Filoni.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's him reading lines and then they distort it.
I love that
which,
so much.
in the show, is why we can sort of like feel like we understand what Chopper's saying.
At times it felt like Chopper was saying actual words, which does make more sense.
Even kind of, they've lent into being a bit more clear in Ahsoka, which we'll get into. Also, Chopper is, I think, the only droid where his head like wobbles.
Yeah.
So he gets
obviously
more
the arms coming out of his head to give him like when you're just on Chopper's head.
Yeah.
And his arms are out. It's a little person that has so much expression.
It gives it so much more expression. And everyone loves him. You realize the like now though the reason he's a war criminal. One, because like the droid that Imperial droid, he just knocks out the ship and he's like, oops, just murdering droids. Yeah. Also, the thing at the end where he like makes the ship full of people just crash and explode, and he's like, there's many other ways Chopper could have dealt with that situation. But no, he chose to make ships crash into each other and kill everybody. And he's like, see you later.
The first time I was like fell in love with Chopper was in season 1, very early. It's when Zeb, like when there was more like on the ship antics, and you had Zeb and Ezra butting heads because obviously they share a room.
Yes.
And Chopper pulls the bolts out.
Yes. And he's instigating stuff.
And then two start fighting each other. They've just got him waving the bolts in the air.
He's just a little shit. Like he just instigates stuff and he doesn't care for anybody.
And hides behind Hera.
Yeah, and he gets away with it. And it's great. This is why everybody loves Chopper. This is why I would love
shit brother.
I would love a world where like he is winding up R2.
Yeah.
Because 100%. R2's also can be a little shit at times.
Yeah.
And it's like
but he was doing it in wartime.
I imagine like Chopper winding up R2 and then you just got R2 screaming at him. It'd be chaos.
Even better, them two playing like a droid game of what's the game where you like where you and your mate scream something louder and louder?
Oh, yeah.
When them two play like prank bogey, so like Chopper goes and like undoes a bolt, and then R2 has to one up him, and they keep one, and then point out a ship just fucking crashes into a planet.
That actually would be such a great little animated short.
That'd be a really good short. You're welcome, Dave Filoni, 10%. But yeah, no, Rebels was great. I'm glad I watched it.
Do you now understand how Zeb got to where he is?
Yes,
in Mando.
100%.
Like everyone kind of like got a good, in my opinion, everyone got the ending in the right places.
Yeah. Also, what Rebels did, which I was hoping it would do, but I wasn't guaranteed it would do, is obviously everyone's heard the Freddie Prinze Jr. rant on that podcast about Star Wars fans. Understanding Kanan's character and like it lends a lot more honesty to what he was probably saying, because when he's getting them scripts towards the end of season 4 about Kanan's arc, he needs to understand what Kanan knows, even if we don't know it, so that he can do it properly. So that's why he's got that information. So I 100% believe that that man knows about as much as Star Wars, and the people who are above him are maybe Sam Witwer, Dave Filoni, and George Lucas himself, and that's probably about it.
That's what you got to remember. Like, he spent so much time with Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni also voicing Chopper. Like, there was so much time spent together, like in information shared and nerding out, and like Dave Filoni was constantly going to George Lucas during that period, and like the whole like world between was built by Dave Filoni and his talks with George Lucas on this like idea and built it into actually something that existed. Man knows his shit. And it's like, if anyone says like, oh no, he's just talking from his own, it's like, no, fuck off. He knows more than anybody.
Do you know what it really is? And I know this is real life, so like it's not like just a perfect story arc. But the original universities were based on philosophy. So you had like Socrates was taught by or taught Aristotle, and everyone had like one or two students, and then you built up.
Yeah.
You got George Lucas, and then it's Dave Filoni. I want to be next. Let me in. Let me in.
Well, here's the thing.
Show me the sacred texts.
Dave Filoni is getting his like collection of directors that he's essentially teaching them the ways.
Yeah.
It's Rebels was like
phenomenal.
The it was everything that was great about Clone Wars and how Clone Wars finished, and it's like
and it just slowly pivots into this mystical mad world.